I can't find my tripod, so I'm literally just recording this with my phone in my hand here, and I'm just going to go through this. So if I mess up, it's just going to have to be how it is. But I wanted to speak about Jauan Jennings and an aspect of his game that I really like, and I think that is going to be real valuable for the Minnesota Vikings in 2026. Now, with Jauan Jennings, something that he brings to the Minnesota Vikings is not something that's going to show up in the receiving production at all. As we know, Jauan Jennings signed a 1 year, $8 million deal with the Minnesota Vikings last week. And it's a deal worth up to $13 million. And in today's NFL, honestly, for what type of wide receiver Jauan Jennings is, I think that is a steal. I don't even think he's 30 years old yet. But no wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers has had more receiving yards than Jennings in the past couple years. But I didn't want to talk about the receiving production. What I want to talk about is, first of all, let's go back to last week when Minnesota Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell spoke about Jauan Jennings a few days ago. He spoke about as kind of this unique aspect that he brings to the Minnesota Vikings wide receiver room. Speaking about his size, the physical style of play that he displays, and the job that he does in the run game as well, which is what I'm touching on here. Jauan Jennings, for a wide receiver, he is a tremendous blocker, and it's been that way quite for some time. If you look at the PFF numbers, PFF numbers aren't anything pro football focused, but you can still look at them and just get an idea, in my opinion, of a player. And he's had a lot of snaps, of course, and in the past few years, his run blocking grades have been good. I know 2025 was down a bit, I believe, but the point still stands. And he's just had some nasty blocks as well for the San Francisco 49ers. It helps that he is 6'3", 212 pounds. But again, it speaks to that physicality aspect that Kevin O'Connell has been talking about. And as for the Minnesota Vikings, in my opinion, I think that is key. If you have followed the signs of kind of just how the year ended for them and kind of what's happening in the offseason, there seems to be just there's some trends I've been picking up, and just or really just an emphasis on what I think they're going to be trying to do in 2026, and that is running the football more. During that 5-game win streak, I believe this is the stats. I went back and looked at it. The Vikings, I think, were tied for the second most rushing attempts in the NFC among teams that ran the football in their final 5 games of the regular season. And then after the season ended, they go and do what? Hire Frank Smith, former Miami Dolphins offensive coordinator. Mike McDaniel called the plays, but Frank Smith was behind that run game design. They drafted a fullback as well. And then you add a player like Jauan Jennings, who can do so much for this team as well as their wide receiver 3. So Jauan Jennings, great run blocker, and it just also adds on to what I said about the Minnesota Vikings draft class. That being them just becoming a more physical team in the NFC North. And it's funny because Kyle Shanahan, I know this was back in 2024, mentioned how like the Niners defense was just trying to fight him in practice, Jauan Jennings. And then the next day, Kyle Shanahan had to show the team, no, this is just how he blocks, this is how he plays. And there is one rep. If you go back and look when they play the Green Bay Packers, I forgot what year it was. I think it was the playoffs, maybe something like that, where he's just blocking a guy. George Kittle, I think, catches the ball, starts running upfield, and he's just taking a guy off on the sidelines and all the way to the bench, basically. So that was pretty funny. But in all seriousness, receivers that can block, that goes a long way for a football team, for real. And I remember when I was at Mizzou, that's where I graduated from, and covering the 2023 Mizzou team. And if I remember this correctly, I remember being in a press conference, and Eli Drinkowitz was talking about his wide receivers, and he said, no block, no rock, about his wide receivers. So it's not a flashy element, but it's a key aspect for an offense. And it's not something that you watch at first glance, but Jauan Jennings' just ability to just be a good blocker is such a crucial aspect, and it's going to go a long way for this football team as well.